There's been a lot of talk about the Phoenix Suns center position as of late. Do they really have a big problem? And if they do, where does the fault lie? We're going to break it down in PHNX Suns coming up right after this. Psychos and sickos unite for a big problem edition of the PHNX Suns show. Of course, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Download the Bet365 app. Use code PHNX365. Deposit 10, place a bet for 5. Get $200 in bonus bets. I feel happy because our full squad is back today. I'm Eric, that's Gil. We got Espo and Steven with, of course, the freckled mamba behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. Thank you all for joining us. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, become a diehard for just $36 today, because that is where a lot of the conversation is happening around the Phoenix Suns, of course, off of this show. But what we're going to do today is dive into the Phoenix Suns center position. Yes, we're going to talk about Mark Williams because that has been a big topic of conversation as of late, but we'll also touch on Oso Ighodaro, Khaman Maluach, and maybe where the Suns go at this position in the future. So strap in, grab a snack, grab a drink, and let's talk ball. But first things first, Espo, Steve, it's been a while since we had you guys in studio, especially together. How are you guys doing?
I'm great. First, I want to welcome everybody in the chat. Boom, Kara, Googly Moogly, Sweet Sassy Molassie,
Wow.
Howard, Johnny B. I mean, all of you. Glad to have you here today.
So many people in the chat. Steven, how are you doing?
I'm chilling, man. I'm looking forward to having a healthy basketball conversation.
So why are the Phoenix Suns screwed?
How are we gonna have any conversation that's healthy with this with the mass unit that is this roster right now?
That's a fair point.
Fair point.
Healthy is a
point.
it's a choice. Yeah.
So before we get into the center position, Gil and I, we did a two-man game for the post-game shows on some pretty rough ones. On the Portland game and then the Boston game. Espo, the Portland game, the lowest point total since 2017 opening night against Portland, and then of course Boston last night, not much better. We did a panic meter show in between those two games. Espo, you were at a 5. I'm assuming that hasn't changed.
You don't think I strategically missed the last 3 shows to
it
avoid
was a
talking about
great choice for you, for sure.
Yeah, I am at a 5. But it's not because I think all hope is lost. It's these next 3 or 4 weeks, even when Book comes back, there are so many things that are going to have to go right for you to be able to stave off the Warriors, for you to stay in the mix. I mean, you got lucky last night with the Lakers and the Warriors losing, but it's going to take so much to go your direction in order to either stay where you are or move up. I think you got the Warriors breathing down your neck. They're playing much better. You're looking at 8, and that worries me because that means you don't have a home game to start.
Not guaranteed.
You're going up against Steph and Draymond. That's not where you want to be.
Nope.
And then, you're looking at a scenario where it's semi-realistic that if you do get in, you're playing Oklahoma City, and that's why I'm at a high number on that panic meter, because you can't do it without Dillon. And you're going to have to figure it away. And you definitely can't do it without Book. We're seeing just how bad this offense is without his gravity, without his ball handling, everything that I think we took for granted. Let's say it that way. Not us, but the overall, we, in terms of Suns fandom over the first handful of months of this season. And now you're getting a firsthand look at this is life without Book. That, we'll see how he comes back and how quick he's able to come back. Overall, I'm concerned for the present, for the next 3 to 4 weeks, but in totality, this has still been a great season. And it's not as if I think all is lost that this will be a failure of a season. Just in the micro, looking at the next 3 or 4 weeks, I'm seriously concerned about what they can do, and the offense the last few nights back that up.
How you feeling, Steven?
Chilling, per usual.
I know you are.
So why you ask me?
Sometimes I'm just curious, like, is there something deep down inside you that's like you see stuff the last couple of games and you get a little bit more concerned?
I mean, I see ebb and flow. It's 82 games for a reason. My shirt unintentionally says marathon for a reason. It's exactly what it is. You got these highs, there's going to be some lows, there's going to be some adversity mixed in. Sometimes the lows and adversity hit at the same time. Everybody deals with it. Denver's been dealing with it a majority of the season. Like, we can look at what the Suns are going through, but you can't ignore what other teams are going through similarly. And Denver's been playing well, but they haven't been playing their best basketball. They have answers that they need to address as well. They have questions they need to address as well. That's just one example of one team in the West that's not Oklahoma City. But you can say the same thing about Minnesota, lesser extent with injuries, but they have a lot of things that they need to answer as well. That's what makes this post-All-Star game stretch the most fun time of the year. Teams have questions they have to answer. Opponents are game planning much more intentionally with information from the first 2/3 of the season, but also in preparation for the playoffs. This is what it's all about.
Yeah, I feel I get that it's a marathon, but right now I feel like the Suns are the guy that's running the marathon, reaches for one of the water cups in the crowd, and instead it's hot coffee. Like it's like the worst case scenario came true with all the injuries at once. And Gil, I look at it and I just struggle to see, okay, can you come out of this stronger somehow? Can you figure out a way to at least be as good as where you are in the last few games? I wonder about that.
So the thing we're talking about and this being a marathon and thinking about, Eric, you've mentioned this before, and we talked about this. It just reminds me a little bit of the 2 times the Suns played the Knicks beginning of January. And the Knicks, the sky was falling for Knicks fans, which is all the time. But they were going through a similar stretch that this team is going through. And injuries had a hand in it as well. And I think that there is something to be said about the time of the season that this is happening. I think that's the most concerning part. That, listen, after this stretch, whenever you get Devin Booker back, hopefully next week, there is around 20 games left in the season. You might not get Dillon Brooks until the last 5 or 10 games of the season. Jordan Goodwin, we're still waiting on reevaluation, and then we'll know a little bit more about that. So I think the fact that it's concerning that these things happen all the time, but it's very different if this happens in November, December, maybe even early January, then it's happening at the end of February. And the problem with the Suns team is it was happening, injury-wise at least, all season, basically. So it does make it tough. It kind of feels like we're in this something's got to give mode. And again, you're running against the clock at this point, and that's the biggest concern for me and why I've been hovering around that panic button, because I'm just acknowledging that time is a real thing.
Yeah, I think something is kind of giving a little bit when it comes to the center position. And the tides seem to have shifted a little bit from the fan base when it comes to Mark Williams. Now, Gil, you and I talked about this a lot last night and over the last couple of days, and I think we can all agree on this panel. You guys can tell me if I'm wrong, that this is not a black and white situation. This is not a Mark Williams at fault, and this is not a the Phoenix Suns are at fault for what I have seen as a little bit of lackluster play from the center position, not for the last week, not for the last 2 weeks, not for the last month, but realistically post-Christmas for Mark was when we were starting to have some conversations. I believe it was the Warriors game around Christmas time that I was like, okay, the numbers are okay, but the impact didn't feel like it was there. And while Mark Williams has had some good individual games, overall, I feel like his play has just been a little lacking from a couple different perspectives. Now, I have some numbers that I'll bring up here in a second, but Steven, I'm just wondering for you, is there something you've noticed with Mark Williams that's different over the last couple of months than maybe what we saw at the beginning of the season?
I mean, I think it's gotten harder. I think it's gotten harder because they aren't finding their bigs, especially not the way that they did a little bit earlier in the season. So I start there with, if you're looking for offensive production and guys are either missing the window, choosing to go a different direction with the choice they make after the screens he sets, or something along the lines of that, that's kind of the ebb and flow that's coming with where their offense is and where it has been the last couple of weeks. So I start there. Has he left a little bit to be desired defensively? Yes. But I just don't like that it feels like team has a problem, find someone that's not playing the best, and let's put a spotlight on that person. I don't like that train of thought considering how much else is going on right now with the team. And for all intents and purposes, we spend a lot of time talking about a lot of Mark Williams' impact will come on the defensive end of the floor. And I just got done on last night's postgame show talking about how good the defense was and continues to be, even if the offense isn't at the level that it needs to be at.
I'm thinking about Marcus' struggles, and I'm curious what everyone thinks about getting him more involved and what does that look like. You mentioned the ball screens and stuff like that, and there's something to be said about the fact that, look, Devin Booker's not available, so that's one less guy who can do that. Jordan Goodwin is, in some respects, one less guy who can be somebody that initiates for him. Because I'm thinking about something we've talked about so much in the ball finding energy, and thinking about last night specifically, he was going against a guy in the Mish Keita who you have to match his energy. And in some respects, he was outworked, whether it was on the glass, whether it was getting down the floor. So a lot of those energy baskets, those effort baskets, whether it's putbacks or rim runs, aren't there for him. So then at that point, there was the one possession that sticks out to me. I mentioned it last night during postgame. He had Sam Hauser on the block or in the middle of the lane, sealed him, but then caught it, didn't make a quick move, didn't really know what to do, brought the ball down. 3 Celtics come in, ball stolen from him. So I'm thinking moving forward, because you have to get Mark more involved, and blame belongs on both sides. But the question is, okay, start from the building blocks. Is it just screening and rolling and diving and making sure he gets one of those once a game? Or is it a lob pass? Or is it a post touch? Like, where do you begin with getting Mark involved?
I think that's kind of that's the thing that I found interesting when Jordan Ott was asked about Mark Williams and his involvement in the offense before the game yesterday. I have a couple takes on what he ended up saying.
Yeah, there's a little rhythm to it. There's probably that's where our combo work has to probably get better. Just who he's screening for, how's the defender guarding him. Obviously, last game they were back and drop. We expect to see some of that tonight, so he's going to be up there to stick the screen. First option is always for our guys to shoot the pull-up three, and then for him to play in the pocket. I think he had a couple in the pocket pretty early in the first quarter of the last game. We got to get him there more. And then the reality is he's 7'1", 7'2". He's going to have to go get it on the glass. So we're going to find him more. We know where his field goal percentage is in the league. Every time he touches it and shoots it, we're in a good place. We do have to find him more overall. And I feel like that's part of the offense that we've tried to hit. Again, Book finds him. We got to get Grayson to get there in that position more. But we definitely have to go through our bigs more, no doubt.
And Grayson, after the game yesterday, also said we need to do a better job of getting our bigs involved. And that's been a big conversation whenever you bring up Mark Williams' struggles, that fans go, well, the Suns don't run plays for him. They don't find him. And while I do agree that it is going to be hard for somebody to find his rhythm in that, it was the middle part of that answer from Jordan Ott where he's like, you're 7'1", you're 7'2". You got to go get it off the boards. You got to go create it yourself. What I feel like has been lacking from Mark Williams offensively was the physicality and the ferocity of battling down low. Last night specifically, it's not just one play, but it's a play that comes to mind. Mark Williams has a rebound basically in his hands, and Derek White goes up and takes it from him. And then they get an offensive rebound. It leads to a Celtics point, which is basically what's been happening the last couple of days. The Suns are getting out-rebounded. They're getting out-physicaled. And Espo, when you look at Mark, yeah, the Suns could run more plays for him, for sure. But I also don't feel like when he has the ball in his hands, he's imposing his will to the point of, okay, that is going to create shots for yourself.
I mean, we've seen that throughout the season with him, and we've had feelings of that. But I think we're missing two simple things. Jordan Ott touched on one of them. Without Devin Booker, A, this offense is not what anybody expects. But B, he's a guy that helps set up Mark extremely efficiently. Mark does not have any chemistry with Jalen. When Grayson has been the primary ball handler, it's usually winding up getting guys good looks on the perimeter. He hasn't really been connected with Mark. But I think there's a more and even simpler answer to what we've seen. Mark has never played more than 1,169 minutes in a season. He has played 117 more minutes than that so far this year. In the up to that minutes threshold this season, he was shooting 66%, 12.2 points, 8.2 rebounds. Since crossing that threshold, he's hitting 47% of his shots. He's only averaging 7.8 points, 6.5 rebounds. Now, all but one of those games was without Book, but I think we may just be seeing him hit a wall because he's not used to going and playing this many minutes. I was talking with a former head athletic trainer for something I'm working on, and he talked about how if players are not used to playing at a certain level for a long period of time, it becomes very difficult. He was speaking in terms of load management, but the same goes with a guy who's had injuries throughout his career and has never reached that kind of threshold. So I think part of this is simply Mark has hit a wall. And that's understandable for somebody who has never played this many games and has never played anywhere near this many minutes. I think that may be part, or at least a large part, of what we're seeing with him.
I mean, I asked a question to Jordan because that's been something that I feel like has been missing from their offense that they have to figure out before meaningful games happen, whether it's play-in or playoffs or both. They can't get to where their ceiling is this season without having impact from both of their centers. And I think because you can't lean into the playmaking part with Mark the ways that you can with Oso, guys have to find him coming off of screens. Ayrton, if we have the Gillespie clip, I talked with Colin about this at practice the other day, and specifically with the guards using screens and the way they're setting up to then come off and the advantages that creates. And here's what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean, that's really important, especially if you're trying to score or get somebody else a look. Trying to get that guy off your body a little bit first, get him going one way. And we talked about it because it's important for when the bigs are setting screens. We got a lot of moving screens the other day, and all that's not on the bigs. A portion of it is setting guys up and making sure that they're set first. Part of that's on the guards, and we talked about it. We got to be better with that, not being as in a rush to get off the screen. And, I think it's just going to be a learning process for us with the guys, the group we got out there now. Obviously, adding Jay, learn how to play with each other, and the group that we have on the floor after having Grayson out, Book out, Dillon out, Goody out now. So it's a lot of new guys out there. We just got to get familiar with the space on the floor, where we're supposed to be at, communication aspects, and playing together.
So that's Colin Gillespie's perspective, who's been at the helm of the offense more often than not the last couple of weeks. If he's saying that the guards can do a better job setting up to then come off of screens, letting that advantage from the setup part of coming off of screens create opportunity for themselves or the roller or someone on the periphery. And then you have Grayson, who talked about they can be much better against drop coverage. Teams are throwing switches and drop at them because they just don't believe in their ability to get the bigs involved to make them pay for the gaps in coverage that both of those things give. And the other part to that, too, is when you don't have Devin around and there's no double teams that you can play off of, you can always press that button to get a team in rotation. And you have to find other ways to do that. And teams are more comfortable in their defensive shell because you're just out of weapons at that point. Somebody just got to find a way to go engage bigs and then make plays off of that. That's where you hope Jalen gets to, but Jalen's not 100% yet in terms of his game rhythm. So there's just a lot of resistance that they're being met with right now. These are things that they're still going to have to answer when Devin does come back because he's not going to play 48 minutes. And teams can throw the same thing that Orlando and San Antonio and Portland and Boston did at their offense as well. This is just part of the season, especially post-All-Star break.
It's very chicken or egg for me, like what it happens first. Is it, the bigs aren't doing their job as well as they could, or the guards aren't getting them engaged where they should. And the accountability, which is something that's been basically paramount to this team and their success this season, is something we're hearing from Colin, from Grayson. And a big part of it is the fact that you don't have your full complement of guys who can do that. As you mentioned, Jalen Green isn't Jalen Green yet. Devin Booker is not around. And Grayson Allen wasn't available on Sunday after playing a bunch of minutes. So it doesn't help the bigs that they have lesser to work with just from a standpoint of injury and returns from injury. But at the same time, there are other ways that they can do things as well. So hopefully hear that same type of accountability from them as far as fewer illegal screens, whether or not they are actually illegal or not, but the type of engagement that they are. And then the big men matchups that they're dealing with is also something worth, acknowledging the fact that these last couple games out of the break is Victor Wembanyama. And, the Magic, not so much as far as Wendell Carter Jr., who had a solid game, but then Donovan Clingan, who had a pretty good game, and then Neemias Queta, who we talked about his effort as well. So that's what I've got my eye on, especially as these matchups come up. DeAndre Ayton is looming, and then the Kings and everything else is going on.
DeAndre Ayton looming. Kill me now.
Yeah.
That could be positive.
Come on.
That could have been said as a positive or a negative. You don't know.
Speaking of, for different reasons, each three of you and even Ayrton can attest to this. DeAndre Ayton was really good with the Suns. One big reason why, because he had a guard that knew how to get him involved in the game. How often did we see Chris Paul forgill, whether he was with the Suns, the Clippers, whether he was with the Spurs, whether he was with the Hornets?
Team USA.
He's coming off of screens early with that big, and it's intentional that he's feeding the big, because if it's not a post-up big where you're throwing the ball in a post to them for 6 or 7 possessions a game, you have to find ways to impactfully get them involved so you can get the breadth of their impact. Tyson Chandler, defensive player of the year caliber center, doesn't get there if he's not engaged on offense. DeAndre Jordan, same way. DeAndre Ayton, a lesser defender than those two guys, but when he was engaged, he showed to have great impact because he had a guard who also then fed to other guys to understand how you can get him involved. That becomes a new weapon for your team.
But didn't we have the same complaints about that we're talking about Mark when we had DeAndre Ayton in Phoenix? Not rebounding, So
the motor's never been a question for Mark.
No,
I appreciate.
I agree.
And he's not. I don't think Mark is going out there because Ayton was always getting shots. Like the problem was not that Ayton was not taking shots; it's that he always wanted more.
But you brought up that Mark's not going up strong. He's not. Those were the kind of things we always heard about Ayton too. And so, is it a Suns big problem, or is it a problem with a lot of bigs in the league that aren't Victor Wembanyama, that aren't the big names, and that the center position's been so devalued over the years that now you just don't have. If you don't have a star, you don't have a guy that's a huge difference maker.
Yes and no, but I look at last night, Neemias Queta, I wouldn't put him in. I think playing like that, or looking in Charlotte, who's also on the schedule soon, like Moussa Diabate. I think that is what the league is trending towards.
Don't disrespect Moose.
I can't disrespect the Moose, man. But with what these guys are doing, they're playing hard. But the big thing for both of those guys, they're playing off of the playmaking of their guard play, which is, I think, paramount to all of that.
I think there's a lot to continue to get into this. Again, it's not one person's fault. I think the Suns are at fault, and I think Mark is at fault. And to me, the offense isn't the only thing that I've been keeping my eyes on and been a little bit disappointed with. We're going to continue to unpack the Mark Williams situation. We'll take a look at the rest of the Suns rotation, and then we'll take a look at the standings, because maybe that will calm everybody down a little bit. But we got to get through it all on the other side of this break. We're always talking to you about how amazing Circle K is, and I know that you guys make fun of me for using the gloves and the hand sanitizer when I fill up at the pump, but I've seen other people do it when I've been using it, so I know that Circle K is looking out for people like me. You don't have to use it.
You do it when you get a Froster too?
No, that would be ridiculous, Espo. But look, when I'm getting a Froster, I'm getting it for 99 cents because I'm a member of the Inner Circle. You can also get a 79-cent Polar Pop, of course, if you're a member of the Inner Circle. Plus, you get money off of gas every single time you fill up. Sometimes with Inner Circle Fuel Days, you can get up to 40 cents off per gallon all day. It's very easy as long as you're a member of the Inner Circle. And it's even easier to be a member of the Inner Circle. All you have to do is download the Circle K app, put in your phone number, put in your email, and boom, you're saving money on food, drinks, and gas for absolutely free. So join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details.
You guys didn't know this, but Eric's true passion is making covers for the hand sanitizer things.
Yes.
The little carry-on.
And I'm trying to expand.
He is, and he wants to go to an online business. He needs to make some scratch with these things. He just does it for fun. And I said, hey, you got to go to Shopify, because if you're going to start an online business, Shopify's where you got to go, because that is where everybody starts their business. Almost everybody. And that's where we did with All City and PHNX. And 10% of all e-commerce in the US starts with Shopify. It's super easy to use. They've got you covered with website creation, product descriptions, email and social media marketing, and so much more. It makes it super easy to be super savvy with business, and includes AI tools as well. So if you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. Turn your big business idea into cha-ching with Shopify on your side. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/allcity. That's shopify.com/allcity. Cha-ching.
Thank you all for being here with us on a Wednesday afternoon. Now, look, YouTube, they're trying to keep us down. There's some problem with the comment section. So if you're commenting and we don't see it or you don't see it, it's not a you problem. It's a YouTube problem. But we have no problem seeing all the comments and the chats from our diehard Discord, which you can get in for just $36 for a 1-year membership, because it is the NFL Combine. But even though you're an NBA fan, you can take advantage of this with a $36 diehard membership. Get access to exclusive diehard content on our website, tons of written content coming out for our diehards over there. Plus you get a free t-shirt, plus you get a discount to all of our paid events. And again, the coup de grace is our diehard Discord membership, where we're always talking Suns basketball 24/7. Go to gophnx.com/intro for that.
You know what else isn't broken? Hitting the like button. That's
True.
still working. So
Yes.
hit it.
Confirmed the like button still works, and confirmed it's still free. With Mark and the offense, I do think that there can be like another 30 minutes on the conversation, but I want to get to his defense and his rebounding before talking about the rest of the center rotation. Any final thoughts on the offensive struggles for Mark Williams?
Yeah, it's going to suck till Devin Booker's back like the rest of the offense. It's that simple for me.
There you go.
I have a number for you guys to get out of here. 38.8%. Can you guys tell me what 38.8% means?
The chance that I don't have a heart attack before 80.
That is the percentage of games that Mark Williams has not scored double digits this year.
Ooh.
Now, again, take that for what you will. He doesn't play over 30 minutes per game for a variety of reasons. He, especially earlier in the season, he had some higher explosions. There have been some games where the Suns have been blown out, and he's not playing in the fourth quarter. But again, this isn't an all everything. It's why I didn't start with it, Steven. But 38.8% of the time, Mark Williams is not reaching double-digit scoring.
I mean, again, my question I'll rebut with is that a him problem, or is that a Suns need to find their bigs in more creative ways problem? You're not calling plays for him literally. He's involved in a lot of plays. He helps to create advantages. Our guys missing windows. Like, that's the part that I continue to come back to. When this Suns team is at their best, Mark Williams can get you 24 and 11 on a night against Portland like he did almost a month ago now. That's not something that's out the realm of possibility. But how often have we seen the Suns with their high assist numbers? How often have we seen them creating with the pass to the extent that we've seen them do before? How in alignment with that is Mark Williams' impact? Like, we talk about the three-point attempts, like that's all cute and everything, but they love to get to the rim before anything. A lot of times if they're moving the ball, they're doing the things they need to do offensively early in the clock, that's what gives Mark opportunities to impact the game on scoring.
Well, and I think this is a bit deceiving too, because there's been plenty of games where you don't need Mark to score in double digits if he's doing the other things for you, because you've had Dillon, you've had Devin, you've had Grayson, you've had Colin. Like, he's not you have to have him be an offensive beast to win games. It just sticks out right now because you don't have those other guys, and he's not scoring at a high enough clip in a lot of people's minds.
I think what I'm concerned about, as much as that, but it goes hand in hand with that a little bit, is the number of games. 16 games, he has 5 or fewer field goal attempts.
Yeah.
Last night was 3 attempts. And I think that's the thing, like whether he's scoring or not, but being a threat. And I know sometimes you get fouled or whatever, but like he should never go 1 of 3 in a game as a starting center in the NBA. Even if he played 18 minutes against the Celtics, like 3 shots in 18 minutes is ridiculous for a guy who starts the game.
I don't know if he took a shot in the first half. I know he didn't score in the first half.
And I do think that's on the Suns, but also like, and Jordan says it too, is you're a big dude. Go create your own opportunities, right? And so both can go hand in hand. And I think they're actually pretty separate from each other, even though they both result in the same thing, where Mark Williams, I don't think, is going and making his own opportunities as much. And that kind of leads me to my next number here. And then also the Suns are not finding ways to get him involved, except for like that one Brooklyn game where they immediately went and tried to find him over and over again at the start. And he had one of his best offensive games of the season. So transitioning over to different sides of the ball, I have one other number for everybody here today. The number is 22.2%. Any guesses on what 22.2% means?
As an arbitrary number, I don't know if that's possible to think about. Go ahead.
22.2% is the number of games this season Mark Williams has grabbed 5 or fewer rebounds.
That one's more unacceptable.
And that is why I led with the other one at the end, and now I'm starting this conversation at 22.2%. That's close to a quarter of the games for Mark Williams as your 7'2" starting center, where not only is he not getting double-digit rebounds, he's not breaking 5. This is my big concern with Mark Williams. As much as the offense is something that I think is an eyesore at times, but there is a little bit more of a reasoning outside of him. To me, especially over the last couple of months, it has not felt like Mark Williams has been a physically dominant force. And you don't have to be 300 pounds to be physically dominant. Mark Williams is a one-of-one athlete with his speed, and his rebounding is where I think that is kind of showing the most.
I think that we talk about a little bit, Espo, to your point about the wall. I think that that's part of it, because a lot of times guys' physicality is something that drains them. And I think that we've seen it now a couple of times. And you've pointed out, Eric, that it seems like Mark has slimmed down a little bit. And maybe that's helped him with his durability, and it's less loads on his knees. And he's better as far as that goes by weighing less or what have you, or being just kind of the weight being distributed differently. But on the other end, if you're tired and you're fatigued overall, not even just in the game to game, but just season-wide, it's harder to have the physicality to match a Kata, to match, a Donovan Clingan. Because one of the things we talked about the first time they played in Portland, I was like, he's going to outlast Donovan Clingan. He's going to outrun him, and he's going to last longer. And that's exactly what he did. He had a big second half in that game. So seeing him do more of that, which is, I think, one of the things that we haven't seen less, that effort that goes into being a good rebounder, to being physical. Like, there was one play last night, I think he had a good position boxing out, but Kata just pushed him off the spot and got the board. That's what's concerning about the rebounding part with me.
Well, I'd be interested, and forgive me, I didn't crunch the numbers, but of that 22.2% of games he's had 5 or fewer rebounds, are those games where the Suns shot more efficiently and there were not a large amount of shots missed? Are there other factors that lead to it as well? Because sometimes they're getting 105 shots up, and there's a lot of misses. There's offensive rebound opportunities, different things that can jack those numbers up in some ways. I'd just be interested in kind of digging into that context a little bit more and understanding if there's something additional that's being missed there, or if it's just simply he's getting outworked in almost a quarter of your game.
So looking briefly into it, I don't see a ton of those examples where the Suns are just making a ton of shots. He's only grabbed 5 rebounds in the last 2 games. Now, I do think minutes is a part of it, because they will pull Mark Williams early, either if they're up or if they're down a big amount, and that can lead to the amount of rebounds. A lot of times what I see is it comes down to the opposing center that he's facing. Only 5 rebounds against Detroit in a win. Sure, the Suns shot better from 3, but you're facing a Jalen Dillon. Only 5 rebounds against the New York Knicks. Okay, you're facing a Mitchell Robinson. It kind of goes with that eye test with Kata, where, again, I think Mark has a ton of talent, and I think he has a very interesting frame for a center, but I think the book is almost out on him a little bit, where it's, if you just get a little bit more physicality with him, you can at least get him off of his spot. Maybe not make him completely ineffective, but he doesn't really seem like he has the strength to completely move guys off of their block and go and grab the rebound.
So for me, if we're talking about specifically the rebounding, I've been talking about tagging up since their very first preseason game. When you talk about what's happening with that, guys are crashing to the high side of their matchup as a shot from the Suns goes up to the glass to then fight for offensive rebound opportunity, but also in turn slow teams from trying to get into transition. To that point, the Suns are 6th in offensive rebound rate right now, and they're 7th in transition defense in terms of what they're conceding on a points per possession basis there. Proof is in the pudding with the process. That result is very good. They're one of the best teams with those 2 margins. 2 of the most impactful margins if you're looking at Indiana against all the odds finding their way to the finals last season within a game of winning it all. If their best player doesn't go down, last season might look a lot different considering how he started it. But to that point, if we're looking at the offensive rebounds and guys have the license to go, and Mark Williams is going for offensive rebounds, naturally, most teams are on their defensive side. They see a big in the paint. They're either going to be all out with one person trying to take him away from the glass, or there's going to be two guys because all five guys from the defense is not, or from the team that is on defense is not boxing out. So Mark Williams has double team. That's like Devin Booker playing double team and pick and roll. Somebody else is open. That's where you see, oh my God, Jordan Goodwin just got another offensive rebound. Oh my God, Colin Gillespie just got another offensive rebound. Oh my God, Ryan Dunn with the putback dunk. But on the periphery is Mark Williams having two guys accounting for his body, which then allows for that process of tagging up, winning extra possessions, scoring on those opportunities. All of those things play into one or to another. So I wanted to bring that part up because their guards are the ones that are getting the offensive rebounds more often than not. We talked about that on this very show when I asked like 3 or 4 weeks ago about that. That's a big part of it. Even still, he's grabbing 5.3% of the offensive rebounds available when he's on the floor for the Suns. That's pretty good, 79th percentile. Like, that's still really, really good. He's still earning possessions for them. But I feel like if you're assessing where his rebounds are coming from and you look at it on the defensive side, what is he also doing? Spending a lot of time on the perimeter in some capacity. That's leading to other guys having those opportunities to get to boards as well.
Well, I think with the offensive rebounding with Mark, he has, I think, been a really good offensive rebounder this year. He's averaging over 3 offensive rebounds per game, but it feels like almost a timing thing with him. He's very good at timing those, and especially when it's his own putback as well. His second jump, his athleticism coming into that as well. The Suns as a whole, defensive rebounding-wise, have left a lot to be desired. Now, maybe in part of that, Steven, is because they're bigs, because Oso is really great at guarding out on the perimeter. Mark has been a very good perimeter defender for what we expected from him this year. And then you're left with all your undersized 4s and 3s, like your Dillon Brooks and your Royce O'Neals and your Ryan Dunn, who's a decent rebounder, but a small guy to go and to crash the glass. He's only averaging 4.9 defensive rebounds a game. I know that's just the numbers, and that's not the only thing to assess here because, like Steven says, there's always context. But there is an eye test aspect to it as well. And maybe it's unfair to say, well, when he goes up against these bigger, beefier centers, but I think when you're evaluating Mark Williams as a player, as somebody who's up for a contract extension this summer, who the Phoenix Suns traded 2 first-round picks for, granted late first-round picks, or in the offseason while drafting Khaman Maluach over at 10 overall, if your starting center cannot do a couple of things like A, play over 30 minutes per game, B, he can now play a lot of games, but it seems like he's hit a wall and has yet to recover from that wall, and now C, gets out-physicaled when you face not just Jokic, right? Not just Zubac, not just Wemby, but a Donovan Clingan, who's a really big center, an Amish Keita, who is a bigger, a little bit more physical center. All of these things, I don't think make Mark a bad player, but with the way that at least I saw him at the beginning of the season, it does change my perspective on A, how much money I'd want the Suns to offer him in the offseason, and B, what his role might be beyond this season on this team.
Well, that's my rebuttal, which is what I was going to get to, because like I think what your perception of Mark was coming into the season is going to be what shifts how maybe swiftly you might be reacting to these instances. How I try to recourse that perspective, because I saw people saying he was a top 15 center. I didn't believe that one bit. I thought he had the potential to be, but at this present moment, you can't be there if you're not playing a requisite amount of games to compete with that volume of players that are in that echelon. But to that point, the number one thing we said for Mark Williams this season was what?
Health.
To be healthy and available on the court. What has he been this season? Healthy and available on the court. Now, the impact there, that can be assessed, that can be spoken on for sure. But if he's checking that particular box off relative to the contract conversation, that's the number one goal. The plan is not necessarily with him not playing back-to-backs anymore. He's transitioned from that. But the plan is still very clearly that he's not playing over a requisite amount of minutes. I think some of that speaks to just, again, the body part, like we've all spoken to, him getting back to that point. But this is just kind of what it is right now. As long as he's healthy and he's out there with at least a little bit of an impact, they're living with that right now. Now, obviously, he's leaving room to be desired there. That's where we kind of get to the Oso part.
Yeah, I feel like if they weren't losing, nobody would be paying that much attention to, is Mark a problem right now? I think it would be, okay, well, Mark's in a slump. But because the team's losing, now it becomes a microscope on him, and every little thing becomes that much more of a concern. And I'm not even 100% sure their plan ever was that Mark was going to be the starting center for the long term. I think he's part of a rotation of bigs that they think they can find success with in different situations. And this year, Khaman just wasn't fully ready to be part of a three-headed monster.
I think this is a fascinating conversation. We're going to keep it going, but we got to do it on the other side of our second break.
Got to tell you about Mountain America Credit Union. Guys, you need somewhere to put your money.
Yes.
Gil, I know you've been stuffed into the mattress you bought when you got
your
here.
back's hurt all the time.
Yeah.
A little lumpy.
I mean, and I've been telling you, you got to get a checking account. And where you got to do it is with Mountain America Credit Union, because you can get that PHNX Suns card, both on the debit, and if you need a credit card, you can get it on that too. Not just that, the Mercury one too, the new logo.
A debit card for the Suns card, a Mercury card for the credit card. You're covered.
I know. I mean, maybe you go with debit on both, because nobody wants to charge in basketball. We know how that goes. But with the MyStyle checking account, you're gonna get restaurant deals, mobile phone protection, telehealth access, identity protection. Not that anybody wants to be me, but they might want to be Gil. Loan rate discounts, offers on travel and events, and so much more. Make MyStyle your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Visit macu.com/MyStyle to apply. Required insurance by NCUA.
We've been doing woosah here on PHNX Suns and kind of relaxing, and I found it a lot easier to woosah when I would take Pure Edibles, because I would go and take the relaxed version of Pure Edibles, because all of Pure Edibles are clearly listed on the tin, whether you want to be relaxed, uplifted, balanced, sleepy. You know how you're going to feel. Gone are the days of sativa, indica, hybrid, where it could be a mixed bag of how you're actually going to be impacted by the edible, because Pure Edibles, not only are they going to tell you how you're going to feel, they promise it's going to be a delicious experience. Their gummies, Kicks, which is their version of Starburst, chews, and hard candies, they don't taste like weed, they taste like candy, but they use a unique blend of CBN, CBG, and CBD with marijuana-derived THC to deliver the perfect effect with gummies that are easy to be bit or ripped in half so that you can dial in your exact dose or share with another friend over the age of 21. So go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries across Arizona. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Sorry that YouTube's having problems with the chat, but we're just going to pretend like we can see all of you in here right now. Thank you.
476 of you that have left comments. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
And like the video.
And like the video. That's right. Gil, I think Espo's point was interesting before about if the Suns were winning, we wouldn't be talking about this, because I think it's 100% correct, because we've seen it happen. Exactly. You and I talked about this on the postgame show, which was all throughout January, the Suns were one of the best teams in the NBA. The beginning of February, the Suns still had, their feet above water, their head above water, their feet underneath them. Anyway.
Their feet are above water. I think they're drowning right
They're
now.
effed. And there were still some signs with Mark that were causes for concern, but the conversation a lot of time was, we'll just give him time. He needs to kind of adjust after hitting this wall. I think now, because that has been building up while they were winning, and now they're losing, the spotlight is being shown on him.
I agree. And that's why I think, to pat ourselves on the back, we were having this conversation, though. It started during that Cavs game when he came back from suspension. He was going against Jared Allen. I don't even remember if Evan Mobley was available in that game, but I do remember a couple moments where it was like, why does he look so timid in his finishes around the rim? He only took 3 shots that game and missed all 3 of them. And then same thing happened against the Thunder. It was like against Hartenstein or Chet, one of the two, he just was kind of shying around the rim. And at that point, I was like, this is kind of weird. Like, where is this coming from? Because he was not doing that earlier in the year. And I think that some seeds were planted, some seeds of doubt, some seeds of concern were planted at that moment. And we're starting to see some of those habits as well. And I think ultimately, to kind of bring it full circle to what we've been talking about and how you fix that, do you draw some things up for him? Have him coming off some type of cross screen or something like that, just to free him up a little bit, because we know he's not a back to the basket scorer so much. We've seen it few and far in between this year. I think at one point there was a stat he had done it maybe 15 or 16 attempts, and if that many this season, I would assume that the numbers are around that. But finding ways to get him involved. And when's the last time we saw him get a lob finish? So a lot of things like that,
you got to have a good lob thrown.
That's the other part of it too. But the big thing is, as we said, getting the ball in your big man's hands oftentimes gives him the energy to do the other things, because he's a human. Humans like to see the ball go through the basket. And I think it all works fully both ways, like guys helping him score, but also him helping the team by being active and things like that.
I wonder, is it partially confidence? And you've been around Mark more than any of us, but having this vacillation in minutes, you're playing 18 in a game or not being out there in the fourth, to close out a game. With certain guys, that can mess with their head too. And I wonder, is it some combination of all these things, including, hey, his confidence is a little out of whack because of the way he's been playing?
Yeah, I start with you can't use vacillation after you mentioned Stephon Marbury.
He fully vacillated.
Yeah, we can't do that.
Tastes good is what I've been told.
I start there, reeling it back into Mark. There's definitely a confidence that comes from it. I don't get the sense in speaking with him that he lacks it at all. I feel like there might be a little bit of a disconnect as far as the rhythm and cadence of guys coming off of screens, and a big can go from whatever their footwork is, or they're turning over the inside shoulder or outside shoulder into the roll, and they already have their hands ready because they know a pass, the potential of it hitting them can happen at any moment. I don't know if he has that rhythm with the guards quite yet. And I think that's something that is a little concerning. I know when Jalen Green was coming back, I mentioned that's why I felt like him coming back meant a lot for the team, past just his scoring and rim pressure, because he can go and put pressure on the opposing big, which then frees Mark for opportunities. Now, Jalen's still going through his things, so that's not happening at the cadence I maybe thought it would, even 4 or 5 games back from him returning. I imagine it surfaces on the other side of these 4 days off they have coming, but they need someone to spearhead that, as someone that's not Devin in particular, because we know Devin doesn't have a problem hitting bigs. That's why he's so good. So I feel like him being able to have someone else outside of Devin that does that, and then other guys, there's opportunities to hit bigs here. It's the Chris Paul thing that I was speaking to. If you get someone that shows you, yes, you can do it in multiple different ways. Now you got Mikal Bridges coming off of dribble handoffs, and he's finding creative ways to get the big involved because of that type of trickle-down domino effect.
There's only been one guard for the Suns that's been healthy all year.
Yeah, Colin Gillespie.
That's it.
Devin Colin hasn't been bad at engaging bigs and hitting the rollers, but that's just not his cup of tea. He can do it, but he's coming off being aggressive. That's what they need from him.
I think that he and the bigs are still learning the timing.
100%.
Right, and that's like you see him and Oso. Like Oso and Colin work so well together because I think it unlocks Colin to be a little bit more off movement, to kind of threaten his three, where Mark, I think, needs a little bit more of a traditional guard, which at times Colin can be, but is certainly not his strength, and that's fine. That's the Suns don't want him to be that. They want him to be the best version of him.
Yep.
Grayson is, by my money, the second best passer on this team this year.
He's the second best live passer.
Yeah, he's been injured for about half of the season. Book has missed a couple of extended stretches, so it's been rough for Mark on a team that's already not built to facilitate big man success from that point guard or guard position, and then the ones that were better at it have been in and out in the lineup at times. It's not all Mark's fault, and I think that when we're talking about it here, it might seem like one person saying one thing, one's the other. I think we all agree that this is a combination of things for Mark where he needs to be better at. There might just be some faults in his game because he's not the best center on planet Earth, and that's okay. And then also what the Suns are doing to get him involved. The other aspect to all of this that I think has helped accelerate the spotlight that's on Mark Williams is the fact that Oso Ighodaro has really come into his own almost simultaneously with Mark Williams starting to struggle sometime in December, and recently being able to see the tantalizing potential of Khaman Maluach. We're going to look into the rest of the Suns center room, and we're going to take a brief look at the standings on the other side of our final break. I'm grateful for Bet365, and if you've been following our betting competition, you'd probably be asking, well, why, Eric? Because it's been a me issue, not a Bet365 issue. Bet365 gifted me a 100% boost on my parlay last game. We don't have to talk about if it hit.
That's what I was going to add.
But I got the 100% boost, and I know that they're giving out boosts left and right on NBA games. And look, I bet outside of Suns games as well. I do a little bit better in those. I don't know why I can't hit on a Suns game, but Bet365 is my favorite place to bet because it's a great experience. And right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets. So you bet $5, win or lose. Sign up, use code PHNX365, deposit 10, place a bet for 5, get $200 in bonus bets. If your bet wins or loses, bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. At Bet365, you must be 21 plus and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT-STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov.
I had somebody reach out to me in our Discord DMs and say, Espo, I need some help. Had a car accident, there's a serious injury. Do you know of anybody I should go to? And I said, hey, I did the research for you because that's what you want. And I said, the husband and wife law team, Mark and Alexis Breyer, they're going to take care of you. I highly recommend that you call them because they will go to trial if it's necessary. They also are going to guarantee that you're going to get more money in your pocket that they're going to take home for their fee. Plus, you will be able to get in touch with your lawyer when you need to. I went through a case, couldn't get in touch with my lawyer. One of the most frustrating experiences I already had, and that was on top of me already being in pain from the accident. So if you want to avoid all that hassle, go with the husband and wife law team first. If you do your research, you're going to find out that all roads lead you back to Mark and Alexis Breyer and their team. So if you've had a serious injury, call the husband and wife law team first at 602-783-8841 or visit their link in our show notes and tell them PHNX sent you.
I think we've had an incredible conversation here today. This is obviously a very interesting topic with Mark that we'll continue to monitor. Gil, you found one more stat from Mark Williams that is a good bow on this conversation.
Because I filled the question, I wanted to do some research. According to NBA.com stats, Mark's last alley-oop dunk was February 5th, and that was the game with the blown lead against the Warriors at home. So have not seen him finish an alley-oop dunk since then, and it was from Royce O'Neal, by the way. 20 days. A lot of games between now.
It's basically a month. It's a short month,
yeah,
but it's basically a month. So we need to talk about Oso Ighodaro because the Oso Ighodaro stock has been doing this, just straight up through the roof. He's been really good. In fact, he's been closing a lot of games for the Suns. He's helped power a lot of these Suns runs off of the bench. We talk about how good the Suns bench has been. Oso's been a big part of that. The question that I want to ask, and I'm very curious all of your answers, is there an argument that Oso Ighodaro is the most impactful center on the Suns roster right now?
I mean, defensively, I don't think you can argue that in terms of his switchability, those kind of things that he can do. His passing is good, but I still think when Mark is on, he's the more impactful of the two because he can give you both the defensive presence and be an offensive contributor. Oso is still so limited on the offensive end. If it's not, he makes a dribble move and goes to the hoop, or somebody's lobbing it to him, there's just not a lot of offensive diversity that he offers you. So I still feel like it's Mark, but that gap has closed more.
I think the way you put it, like a great Mark game or a Mark masterclass is better than an Oso masterclass, but I think that their floors are kind of similar, which you probably shouldn't be able to say about your starting center and your backup center. But I also think the consistency, as you talked about, I think that's what's raised with Oso and his impact. We've seen it so much, like him switching and guarding in space, but also his playmaking ability and the two-man game we've seen with him and Colin and other guys. I think he can replicate that with more reps with other guys. So I think that is what makes it an intriguing conversation, because I think what we've seen from Oso more consistently, that's where the gap has closed with what we've seen from Mark most consistently. Now, I do think that because of Mark's highs being higher, I think that gives him a little bit of an advantage. But to your point, it's pretty close.
I think what Oso offers in like the pace change that comes, it's like a switch that flips for the team, literally and figuratively, when he's on the court. I think that is greatly beneficial for them. And I think he also executes off of the attention that other guys garner on the offensive side better at times than Mark does. So all of those things, the strengths and whatnot that I just got done speaking to with Mark, I feel like Oso is playing better at this moment. And I think generally this season he's been slightly better than Mark. And to that point, non-garbage time net with these guys on the floor, Oso is third on the team with a plus 6.5. Not gonna say where Mark is, but he's at a minus 4.9 in terms of non-garbage time minutes this season. So that's a two opposite sides of the spectrum type thing. Obviously, there's context there. The lineups that Oso's on the floor with are directly aligned with his strengths. The lineups that Mark is on the floor with don't necessarily involve his strengths to the extent that Oso's lineups are. Some of that comes from how Oso defends and what that entails for their defense, but that is the numerical difference between the two right now, and I just presented some play context with that.
I think part of that is also that Oso Ighodaro is a little bit more versatile on the offensive end. I think when you talk about Mark's best abilities on offense, a lot of it is reliant on when you have a very good true point guard type or facilitator towards him. And that's not a bad thing. We see a lot of really good centers who get off of that, but it is a roster construction thing where I think Oso can be a little bit more steady in a plug and play because he can facilitate and handle the ball. He's a very plus passer. He is one of the better passers on the team. And like Mark, even though he's not 7'2" with a crazy wingspan, Oso is crazy athletic, just like Mark Williams is. And so Oso feels like with this specific roster, an easier plug and play and easier to kind of build chemistry with, because while Mark does rely on a lot of playmaking and creation, when Oso's on the court, who are you seeing dribble up the ball a lot of times?
Yeah.
It's Oso, right? Who's the guy who's being involved in these two-man actions in a more unique way where he's swinging the ball and kind of moving a little bit more laterally and getting these shooters and everybody around him involved? It's Oso. So again, I don't know if it's a matter of in a vacuum is Oso Ighodaro currently a better center than Mark Williams, but Gil, it does feel like for what this roster's strengths are, Oso might be, if you had to pick one guy to close the most important game, and you don't know who you're playing yet, you just had a blind pick a center, it might be Oso at this point.
What comes to mind when you mention that, and we said this post game sometimes, like, oh, this was a Mark game, this was an Oso game. Like, this is where Mark's strengths were better suited for what was going on. This is where Oso's strengths were better suited for what was going on and what the game script called for. And I think what it comes down to your point, him being better, not only is it sometimes maybe a matter of fit with the guys on the team, but just the way the league is. I think the matchups that Oso finds himself in and thriving in, we think about him closing against the Warriors and a couple other games where he was the guy chosen to close. It was better for his strengths and what he was able to neutralize from other teams, or what he was able to bring the Suns to be impactful against those other teams. And I think that we say that fewer with Mark, but that's not to say that it isn't important, right? We talk about what he did in that Nets game, what he did in that Trailblazers games. There are very specific matchups, and I think that it's a unique thing because of their profiles and how good they are respectively, to have two centers like that who you can trust to give you 48 minutes of center play in this league, because not a lot of teams have that by committee type deal where it's broken down just like that and you go either or. But it just, the gaps in what they probably need to do a little more of, whether it's floor spacing or things like that, creating for themselves on the block, whatever it is, that's where I think the issues kind of creep in, because they are both very solid, but there are some flaws that they can't match up with other teams because of.
And I think that part that you mentioned is important, because you can say Oso's been better, but you look at who he's been going up against. If you're a reserve, sometimes you're not even going up against an actual center. If you're in a starting unit, you're going up against a starting center. It's probably somebody that's bigger than you, that has some strengths to play to with their team. The other part of that, too, for me is if you're looking at Oso and you're saying Oso should start for the team, for one, that takes away his advantage. That is something when he's in a reserve unit versus a starting unit. But for two, that means you have to do that for 30-some-odd minutes. Can Oso bang and play in the paint that frequently and do all of that switching that he does in a condensed fashion when you expand that volume of reps? Is it going to still have the same impact? Is that impact going to wither? Does he get in foul trouble? Like, there's a lot more than just being better with certain lineups and lineup combinations than it's saying this guy's playing better, so he should start over that guy. I think that part needs to be added to the convo.
I think it's also, I think you both said it, these guys were put together as a complementary duo in a lot of ways. That when they constructed the roster, they looked at it and said, if we have 48 minutes at center, these are the two guys that we think we can spread it between and get different advantages depending on matchups and situational things. That's the way this roster was built. So I don't think it matters if Oso starts or Mark. They're a pair.
Sure.
But I don't think that and I know we're going to get into Khaman in a second. I don't think that's the long-term view here. I think this was the short-term Band-Aid on how to get you through the center position this year with a larger vision on how you could use it to your advantage moving forward.
My quick rebuttal.
That part of it might end up being what hurts you in the long run in terms of what your ceiling is and what you could potentially do to reach that.
My quick rebuttal to what you said, not that I'm arguing for Oso to start, because I'm not. I do agree that him coming off the bench, playing against bench, it's clearly a great situation for him because it's working. But there have been multiple games now at this point, especially since the calendar turned to 2026, that Jordan Ott has closed with Oso Ighodaro against starting centers.
That's the conversation that should matter, because if he's closing, that's for 5 minutes in clutch time. Like, that's different than when you're saying, we need you to play 36 and a half minutes for us, not get in foul trouble, maintain your switching viability and that impact. That's significantly more than saying, okay, we're in a situation here. You're playing better at this moment. You've had more impact. Now go do it against the starters.
That's why you don't put a sprinter in a marathon.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, this part of Mark too, where
or a marathon runner and a sprinter.
Exactly.
He gets to a point where he's at 28 minutes in the game, and maybe his body isn't holding up. He's tired. He's not used to playing that amount of minutes. He's starting to maybe get out physical. And it's okay, Oso, you're fresh. Go out there and close for us. It is a fun combination at times when they're all clicking, and I think you're right, Espo, where there is kind of this, I don't want to say this like cloud hanging over them, but Suns fans have their eyes on Khaman Maluach, and especially recently, he's 2 of 2 from deep, his only 2 3-pointers that he's attempted and hit at a Phoenix Suns level. He's gotten some decent minutes ever since Dillon Brooks went out. Gil, when you look at Khaman, is there an argument to where, hey, we'd like to see him a little bit more, and maybe he is a piece to the center rotation that's needed now instead of, hey, this is our future answer?
There's an argument to be made about it. I mean, you look at what he was able to do in the fourth quarter of that Thunder game, which I will continue to stress that although it was garbage time by definition, it was definitely against rotational players in the NBA. So he wasn't just playing against nobody. And then seeing him in early on, second quarter of that Trailblazers game, caught us all by surprise, but he was impactful in those moments. And I thought that might have meant that he had turned a corner. But the big thing that I'm liking to see with him that suggests that he has turned a corner is that he's not looking as lost out there, and I think that there have been times where we did see him getting garbage time and he was not impactful. But he has not had any non-impactful minutes the last 3 times that we've seen him play, which I think is a big step in the right direction. So that's the argument for. I know we've talked a little bit about why he maybe should not be going in just yet, but the argument for that is that, look, let him continue to be impactful until he isn't, and then you dial it back. But, I think they're easing him into a role potentially.
Screw easing him into it. This team's offense is stalled. They are at dire need of figuring out something. You have the ability with him to potentially even play 2 bigs when you have no size in terms of a lot of your lineups. At this point, you are at a position where it's all hands on deck. Figure it out. I'd play him as long as you're still having these offensive issues and see if he can be one of the solutions. See if he can help on the boards. I don't think there's a downside at this point because we've started to see him, when he gets those minutes, have an impact. If he goes out there and he's not effective, then don't play him. But until he's not effective, then I would be giving him more and more over the next week or two just to see if he can actually have some kind of impact as you get into this final stretch and maybe even in a play-in or a playoff game, because you drafted him, you've given him time to develop. He's coming and he's shown you in these flashes that he appears to be ready to take on the role. All right, young man, go out there and show us.
Yeah, I definitely hear and understand where y'all are coming from with the recent minutes from Man. My thing is, defensively, is he where he needs to be to stake a 10 or 15 minute claim to the rotation? I haven't seen it quite yet. Just in watching his G League minutes and the ups and downs that come with those against a myriad of different styles of centers, a brute force center, a spacing 5, a hybrid 5, someone's kind of like Oso a little bit. Seen him go against each and one of those different types of matchups. Each has presented some different challenges. Now, he's done well against each of those 3 as well, so I'm not ignoring that part of it, but I'm imagining what translates best to the NBA level. And he can't just be a catch and shoot guy. Like, obviously, everybody wants the Suns to go have a catch and shoot 3 guy. Everybody continues to mention the threes that he has made recently. He can't just be a guy that's delivering that for the offense. Is his screen setting impactful? Because as much as people want to talk about Mark and Oso and their strengths and weaknesses, one thing that never comes up is on the weakness side is how well they set impactful screens. Man, are you getting to screens to a point where you're setting it and guards are coming off free like you did in last night's game that led to the 3 that you made? Those situations can't be few and far between. They have to be like a mainstay. If he's not going to be getting the ball in the post, if he's not going to be a behemoth on the offensive boards, he has to be a borderline elite level screener to then allow for him to play to his catch and shoot strengths. And then to the defensive side, like he had moments against Portland, but he also had moments in that fourth quarter where he just wasn't matched up after a made basket. Those are things where matchups are clear cut and set that cannot happen. A few times he got just driven in and hit in the chest and kind of gave up 2 or ended up fouling in those situations simply off of not being matched up. Those are the types of things that I'm speaking to. You don't have that margin for error with this team, and if one of the 5 pieces on the court isn't quite there, it's going to bring the greater sum of the parts down some.
To be clear, I'm not suggesting getting like 30 minutes.
No, for sure.
But like 10 or 12 when you're scoring 82 and 77 points and see if he can.
Injured.
Right?
Yes, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Fully healthy?
But no, I can't even say the injured part because the injuries don't have anything to do with the front court.
But it does with the power forward position. And that's where I find it fascinating with Oso and Khaman.
I mean, kind of, but
because then why is Khaman playing now, right? Like
he's not.
He checked in the beginning of the second quarter against
that was
the
in one game, and that was a game where context-wise, Jordan I said, yeah, we went off script for this game. Next game, we'll be back in alignment with what our rotation typically would look like. And when did he play?
I guess I'm just scrambling for any answer offensively now because
I think the answer needs to come from the guard spot though, more than it is from the front court.
What
just because you have lack of
what
you have more. But my reason is you have more options.
You
have way more options.
Maybe you go there for threes. I just right now I'm a believer in sometimes when you're presented with great strife like they have, you just have to try something that may feel unnatural because it may be the thing that breaks you out of a funk.
Sure.
And,
Not the panic button, but the emergency button.
Yes, I think that I'm not long-term panic, but I know that there is an emergency right now, and where there's smoke, there's fire, and you got to fire somewhere, and you got to find a way to put it out.
So I was gonna say, I think I made the point for him to play, right, because of what he's shown, but to argue against myself or argue against that point along with what you were saying, Stephen, with defensively, I remember there was one play against Portland where he was definitely out of position, but he grabbed Jalen Green and pushed him to be in position. And I think that is what you risk with young players, especially young players who are still learning the game. If you just throw them out there and it's not a controlled environment and not a controlled setting, they can develop some bad habits that it takes 2 games to pick up and takes 2 seasons to unlearn. Okay. And that is my big concern with him, a player, especially as young and as raw of a talent as he is. So that would be the one pushback it is. But I totally understand and wouldn't be mad at, all right, let's just throw him out there for 2 minutes and see what happens.
And that's the thing where it's like he could also get good stuff on tape. I mean, you think about the possession against the Celtics where he had the block and then he had the 3. Well, the reason why he had to block the shot is because Luka Garza wasn't boxed out by his guy who was Khaman Maluach. Luka Garza gets the offensive rebound. Khaman gets the block, goes on the other end and hits the 3. Like he's not going to be perfect, but he might be able to have some sort of spark. And now you can go back on tape. I get the Valley Suns are one thing, but at an NBA level, you could say, look, man, you've had minutes against the Thunder, against the Trailblazers, and now against the Celtics. You did some good things. You did some bad things. Let's take a look at it. I think if you put him out there for 30 minutes and really throw him to the Wolves and you start him and you say, go do whatever you want, that's when those poor habits are built. If he's only playing 5 to 7 minutes in some games, I don't know if that's long enough for him to be stuck in his ways. I think it's enough to put some stuff on tape, good and bad, and then see if you can develop and have him work on it, because that's also part of development. It's not just practicing. It's not just going to the G League. It's learning in the NBA too, which eventually he's going to have to do.
I mean, the question is he ready though? Because the team got to where they are, been flirting with 6th in the West pretty much all season long without him having staked any relevant claim to non-garbage time minutes in the rotation. I think he's played the least of everybody on the roster right now. Like that's not, and this is not to make it seem like he's just not a good player. I don't think he's ready yet. especially to be impactful with that, and to the point of giving him minutes and seeing what he can do. If those things don't go well, that works the opposite direction against a player's development. Obviously, you want them to be operating with confidence and seeing what that impact looks like, but the timing has to be right. And I'm just not sure that now is the right time for that.
And to that point, too, what you're saying, it's one thing to, in respect to Luka Garza, but it's one thing to make that mistake against Luka Garza. But if you're making that mistake on Thursday against, I know, might roll our eyes, DeAndre Ayton or even Jackson Hayes, it's probably a different result. So I think that controlled environment of him being able to play through mistakes, it's easier to play through mistakes in that garbage time setting and situation, in a Valley Sun setting and situation. And the other part of it too, not bad habits. I don't want that to hurt his confidence, which again, I understand the other conversation is these are issues you should not be having about your 10th overall pick, but then you have to go into the context of him not being your typical 10th overall pick and why the game is still fresh for him and all of these things. And I think that it's okay to have those reasons or contextual excuses, if you want to call them excuses, in year one. But I think that after a full year in an NBA system, after a full summer in an NBA system, we can't be having these conversations again this time next year, or not this time, October of next year. Next preseason, we should not be having these conversations anymore. But I recognize everything that's at stake.
If you want him to play garbage time, there's probably going to be a lot of it over the next few games until Devin Booker gets back.
Hopefully it's only just one at that point.
I mean,
you got 4 days off after tomorrow.
I mean, fair, but we don't know that just being reevaluated for Devin Booker means he's going to be back. So
I saw him shooting around yesterday. He was moving around a little bit.
I also wonder why in a game like yesterday did you not play him more minutes?
And I think that goes back to the is he ready question that I continue to press the button on. I said it himself. He wasn't asked directly about that. He just said, yeah, we saw our opportunity tonight. I imagine the next game we'll be back where our rotation typically is, and we saw what we saw.
Look, he's a fascinating guy, right? And my last thing on him that gives me encouragement as to if you throw him a little bit more into the fire, he will learn, is one specific thing, which is on almost every single offensive rebound when he came into the league in the Valley Suns, he would bring the ball down. And the other game, he brought the ball down on an offensive rebound and he got stripped. And then a couple minutes later, he got another offensive rebound. He kept it high and he put it up. I have faith in his ability to learn on the fly, and I'm sure the Suns do as well, but it is certainly something that a lot of Suns fans are asking for.
I think I'm becoming the Bull fan though when it comes.
Yeah,
I'm like I want more. Anytime
you sound like me 3 games into the season.
Yeah,
like I thought that was funny. I heard you talking about it. I'm like, this is literally what I said when they were getting their ass kicked in the first 3 games of the season. And I think it's fair. I think especially from a fan perspective, Espo, for you and I specifically, I think it's very fair to have the PTSD from the draft that we've had, and to see a guy who's like all of the ceiling talk for him and the tantalizing options of what he could bring, it entices you. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is, can this team win games now, and can they win games in the playoffs? And then when we hit the offseason, we can evaluate everything else. And that's something that we're continuing to work forward to. The Suns are not out of the playoff conversation. Tomorrow's game is very important. We'll take a look at the full standings tomorrow. But for right now, the Suns are 2 games behind the Lakers for the 6th seed. They face the Lakers tomorrow, so they can gain a whole game in the standings and also gain a little good graces going into a mini little all-star break, a 4-day off stretch after tomorrow. So we'll be back for a pregame, watch along, and post-game show tomorrow. Then on Friday, we'll be back here for a 3 p.m. show. And then we've got audio-only episodes coming out this weekend. We have a very fun interview coming out this weekend as well that you definitely want to keep your eyes out for, which means you have to be subscribed to this channel. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. We're sorry that we couldn't see all of your comments today. Hopefully YouTube has their crap together tomorrow.
I know. Some of them I'm glad we didn't see. But.
I will say, against all odds, of course, YouTube finds a way to give us a boom. The Suns have a lack of draft picks problem, chat.
They are not alone. They're not the only team in the sports that have that problem.
I just love that that's one of the very few that came in, but we do appreciate the people whose comments did come through. The future becomes a present. Will, Craig, Boom, Espo, Muggs, and the Freckled Mamba. Of course, you can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. That's on Twitter and on Instagram. Shout out the Freckled Mamba behind the Mac, making all the magic happen. You can follow him at Freckled Mamba. You can follow Steven at StevenPG3. That's Steven with a PH. Guess what? Another home game tomorrow, which means Steven will be there at the morgue. Make sure you follow him to get up to date everything when it comes to the Suns. You can follow Espo, catch him on Southwest Bias every weekday morning at Espo. You can follow Gil at Gil McGregor _ You can follow me at ERIKRUBY. Do the Suns have a big problem? I don't know, but they think they have some solutions.
Ahoy, hoy.
We all silly like the mayor.